Hello, I'm Seerat and today I'm here to discuss event tracking in Google Tag Manager. We will discuss that how does Google Tag Manager uses data layer and its push method and how does it integrate it with its own data structure. We will also discuss auto event tracking and some issues that we face with the tracking, right? So first of all, to understand data layer, let us go to the preview mode. Let's click connect here. Now our website is loaded, and if we go to the inspect mode here, and let's go to the console once this is loaded. Right, so we go to the console and here let's access the data layer. Let's understand what is the structure of data layer. So for doing that, we use window dot data layer. Now, data layer is a global data structure, right? It is an array here which has currently 6 elements in it. It is recommended to always use window dot for accessing data layer. The reason being, as it is a global data structure, so if somebody else goes through our code later on, then they should be able to understand that, okay, a global data structure is being accessed here. So always recommended to use window before. Now we have 6 elements here and these are pushed into the array in the same order, like the 0th element being the first one to push and the last element here being the last one. The index in the array starts from 0, so the first element is assigned the 0th index, right? We have gtm.start, we have the name of the event, we have unique event ID, then we have event .dom, we have gtm.load, we have gtm.scroll depth, and all these things. Now, let's see that how can we add something to the data layer. It is very simple. First, we write window dot data layer dot push. Now, using this, we can add something to the data layer. Let's say we add name period. Let's hit enter and let's observe the data layer again to see the changes, right? Now we see that instead of 6 elements, we have 7 elements. And if I expand this, I see my name here, right? Let us go to the tag assistant now to see how these changes are reflected there. So in the tag assistant, let's click continue. So in the summary section of the data layer, we see that we have name Seerat. We can see that up until the scroll depth, the name was not there, but at this, the name was there. It is pushed in the data layer. Now, one more thing to notice here is that this here, right here, is an object that we see under the data layer tag. So this is the representation of Google Tags Manager internal data structure. It is a lookup table. Now, Google Tag Manager does not listen to any other command other than push. What is meant by that? If I go back to my console here and I just simply write a command data layer dot pop. Now let's read the data layer again. We see that the last element is deleted, right? But if I go back here, I see no change at all. So this is because Google Tag Manager only listens to the push command. One more interesting thing here is, let us push the element back. Okay, and now let's say that we made a change. Before executing this command, let's go to tag assistant and see that we have name, right? And the value is Siraj here. Now, if I go here and click enter and I observe the data layer again, then I see that I have 8 elements and I have named 2 times with 2 separate values. But the situation in tag assistant will be different as it will only reflect the updated value. So this is one more thing to remember, that it does not store the history value, but it just reflects the updated value. So what Google Tag Manager basically do is that it uses this data layer from here as its message queue and it extracts the information. Now it adds its own listener to the push method, which helps it to create its own data structure. Now we have successfully created this, like we have understood this data layer. It's under the data layer tab here. And now, even if we deleted this from here, like we generated a pop command, but it was not reflected here. Now, we have some default events in Google Tag Manager, such as container loaded. So this is fired when the container has completely loaded. Then we have DOM ready. So this is when the pushed HTML, right? The HTML of the page is loaded. Then we have window loaded, which is loaded when all the events like the scripts, the source, the images, and the asynchronous requests are completed. Then the window loaded is fired. Now, let us go and understand various event tracking that is given to us by Google Tag Manager. Let's go to triggers. And here, inside new, let's select the trigger configuration. And here we have a whole lot of different options to us. First, we have page view, in which we have consent initialization, page view, DOM ready, when the DOM is ready, we discussed it, and window loaded. Now, some more customizable ones. Click. Click has 2 types, all elements and just links. So what is the difference between these two? These both track clicks, but the difference is that this all elements one tracks any click that happens on our website. Like if we go here and I just simply click anywhere, this will be tracked under click, right? But just links is more specific. This tracks only the clicks that are made on the links. Now, links are basically something that have an anchor tag in the HTML, and they can have a destination, and maybe they can be a link to an external website. There can be a whole lot of use for links, but basically just links only track those clicks that are made on an anchor tag, right? Then we have user engagement. The first one here is element visibility. Now, this helps us to control the firing of a tag based on the visibility of an element. Like if I select this here, I'll see that we have the option of specifying that which element do we want to monitor. We can specify the element by ID or using CSS selector. Only when that element will be visible in the window, the corresponding tag will be fired using this trigger. So this is a great way to have control over firing of tag if it is related to the visibility of a particular element. Now we have form submission. So let's say that we have a form on our website, right? And we have a submit button associated with it. So this is basically tracking that, but sometimes we might face problems with it. The reason being that sometimes when the code is like done, it altogether stops the default submit and maybe it is using some other method. So we might face difficulty with this. Then we have scroll depth. So scroll depth just keeps the track of like how much is the user scrolling. Like if I select this, So we can track vertical scroll depth and horizontal scroll depths, and we can specify the percentages here, right? We can even specify the pixels. Now, I go to the website and I scroll up it and I go here, then we see that we have scroll depth, right? So basically, this can be a great way of tracking like how much of the page is the user actually visiting and all these things. Now, I go back to Google Tag Manager and let's see the remaining trigger types. Then we have YouTube video. Now, this one is quite interesting because using this, we can track the engagement that the user is making with the YouTube video that we have embedded in our website, right? We have the option to track the start, complete, pause, seeking buffer, and even the progress, right? We can specify the progress in percentage or time threshold. Now, we have custom event. Like if we have created an event, then we can track it using this one. Then we have history change. So this basically listens to the manipulation of the history API, right? In case of a single page application, the website might not load again and again, and the URL is just modified, right? So we can use this one for like monitoring it. Then we have JavaScript error. So when we have a JavaScript exception in our website and we like it is not being caught anywhere, then this is fired. Then we have a timer. Basically, we can choose to fire it after a certain interval. And then one of the most interesting one is trigger group. Here we can combine two or more triggers. Let's say that I want to fire a tag when the scroll depth is more than like 75% and the particular element is visible or a link is clicked. So all these things can be done inside the trigger group very easily, and it gives us more control and helps us sort of mix and match the triggers to create our own trigger according to our own need. Okay. So these were the various options that are given to us by Google Tag Manager. And let's just go and observe click for once. Like if I go here and I select click, now I see various things are observed here, right? We have, so we have the element that was clicked. We have the element class, that the class of the particular element that was clicked. We have element ID, we have element target and element URL. So all these things are observed. Now these will also be observed for event visibility. Basically, this helps us to get a better understanding of what actually is user interacting on the website. So now we will see that what problems can we face sometimes, like if we are tracking a link and sometimes it will not show us the value, right? So what might be the reason behind it? So for that, let us go to the diagram here. Now, this basically represents the structure of our website, right? In the top, we have the window that basically contains all our global data structures. Then we have the document. Inside it, we have HTML. So from HTML starts all the structuring that is done on our website. Like everything that we see on our website is after HTML, like all the tags, all the tables, all the embedded videos, and all these things. So in this particular case, we are seeing that, okay, we are tracking a click of a particular cell in a table. So we first have HTML, then we have body, then we have table, and inside the table, we have table body. Now inside it, we have two rows. So we have two TR tags here, and we have the cells, right? So GTM uses event propagation. So the tracking of event is done in three phases. What Google Tag Manager do is that it places the event listener here all the way up on the document level instead of attaching it to each specific element. Now, the reason for doing it, that first of all, some elements on the website might be added on the go, right? Which were not there initially. And event listeners are added when the website loads up initially. So if an element is added later, then it will not be tracked at all. And it also is added to the document level to reduce the overhead. Now, the tracking happens in three phases: capture phase, target phase, and the bubbling phase. So, the capture phase is basically the mouse being moving to the element, and then we have the target phase when the mouse is clicking the element. The main thing that is required for the Google Tag Manager is the bubbling phase, as it takes the information for the particular event and gives it to Google Tag Manager. Now, why do we sometimes face problems with our link clicks? Because a developer can come here and say in this particular ER that, okay, the click has happened, but I do not want to inform it to the tags above. Now, writing this code is very, very easy, and it can easily stop the bubbling phase altogether. This will create a problem for us, as bubbling phase is very crucial for passing the information to Google Tag Manager, right? So in the case, if we feel that our link is not working properly, so we can simply talk to the developer and ask that whether there is some code that is blocking the bubbling phase or any such thing, right? Because it is extremely important for the bubbling phase to work correctly. If we scroll up, we can see option like if we simply write event dot stop propagation inside the code, so this will stop the bubbling phase, but again it is not recommended to do that. So this is what event tracking in Google Tag Manager looks like. We discussed that how is this data layer functioning with respect to data layer array. Then we discussed all the various types of triggers that we have here: the click, the user engagement, and some other custom events, history change, and all these things. Then we also discussed about the bubbling and capturing. So thank you.